Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. Ever have one of those moments where you reach for something completely ordinary and suddenly everything you thought you knew just stops making sense? That happened to me on a Wednesday evening in October. I was hunting for my car key fob, which had somehow ended up in Claudia's messenger bag. She was upstairs in the shower, and I had an early meeting the next morning. Simple enough situation. Or so I thought. The bag was sitting on our kitchen counter, unzipped and open. I could hear the shower running upstairs, the water hitting tile and that familiar rhythm that meant she'd be up there at least another 10 minutes. The smell of Thai food we'd ordered for dinner still lingered in the air, mixing with the scent of her perfume that always clung to her things. Our kitchen had these big windows that looked out onto the gas lamp quarter, and I could see my reflection in the darkened glass. Just a regular guy on a regular Wednesday evening, reaching into his wife's bag to find his keys. I reached inside, feeling past the usual collection of receipts and makeup and pens and whatever else gets accumulated in purses over time. Lip gloss, breath mints, a tangle of charging cables. My hand brushed against something substantial, something that didn't belong with the everyday clutter. A manila folder, thick with papers, tucked into the interior zip pocket. The kind of folder that doesn't belong in a purse unless someone's specifically trying to keep it hidden. For a moment I hesitated. We'd been married 13 years. You don't go through your spouse's things without reason. But my hand was already on it, and something about the weight of it, the deliberate way it had been concealed, made me pull it out. The first page had my name typed across the top. Neil Brennan. Then below it, in official legal formatting, petition for dissolution of marriage. The words didn't register at first. I stared at them, waiting for them to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. But they stayed exactly as they were. Dissolution of marriage. My name. Claudia's name. Filed with San Diego County Superior Court. I heard the shower still running upstairs. The sound grounded me somehow, reminded me I had maybe 5 minutes before she'd be downstairs. My hands had started trembling. The smell of Thai food we'd had for dinner hung in the air, suddenly nauseating. I stood there holding divorce papers that my wife had prepared without telling me. 23 pages of them. Professionally drafted, thoroughly detailed, complete with tabs and highlighted sections, just waiting for the right moment to be filed. The petition was dated October 10th, 6 days ago. Filed with San Diego County Superior Court, though the submitted box remained unchecked. Attorney listed as Patricia Vance, Vance & Associates, with an address in La Jolla I didn't recognize. I flipped through the pages, my hands shaking harder with each one. Financial affidavits showed our joint checking account at $12,400. Except I checked it online just 2 days ago. It held over $18,000. Our savings were listed at $31,000 when the actual balance was $44,200. My 401k was valued at $67,000. I'd literally reviewed my statement last week while considering some investment changes. It was $89,500. Every number was wrong, and not randomly wrong. Every single discrepancy favored her. The property settlement proposal was even more creative. Our condo valued at $485,000, with proceeds after sale to be split 60-40 in her favor. I'd been watching our building's sales casually for months, the way you do when you own property. Comparable units were consistently going for $540 to $560. She'd also proposed a 65-35 split of our joint accounts, favoring herself, and a 50-50 division of my retirement account, while somehow keeping her IRA entirely separate and untouched. Her justification for all this creative accounting? Compensatory adjustment for career sacrifices made during the marriage. I had to read that line 3 times. What career sacrifices? We'd both worked full-time throughout our entire marriage. If anything, my career had required more relocations, more travel, more weekend work than hers ever had. There were other documents too. 3 months of bank statements with certain withdrawals highlighted in yellow. Amounts I vaguely remembered but had never really questioned. $150 here, $200 there. A credit card statement from an account I'd never seen before, opened in May of this year, with her name alone on it. Charges at restaurants I didn't recognize, something called legal consultation services, department stores. An appraisal of our condo from some real estate agent I'd never heard of, conveniently arriving at that low 485 number. An itemized list of property she claimed as hers alone, most of which I distinctly remembered us purchasing together. And then, tucked near the back, a draft email. The subject line, some personal news. It was addressed to several of our mutual friends. The message explained how we'd both come to realize we wanted different things from life. How we'd made the difficult but mature decision to part ways. How we were committed to handling everything with grace and dignity. How we both wished each other well. It was warm and reasonable and completely civilized. It was also completely fictional, since I knew absolutely nothing about any of this. The shower cut off upstairs. I grabbed my phone and started photographing every page, hands shaking so badly I had to retake several shots. Footsteps on the stairs. I shoved the folder back exactly where I'd found it, and finally located my key fob in the side pocket where it had been the whole time. Claudia appeared at the bottom of the stairs in her white bathrobe, damp hair pulled back. Did you find it? Yeah, it was buried in there. Thanks. I held up the key fob, keeping my voice steady. She smiled. That comfortable, secure smile of someone who believes they're in complete control of their situation. I barely slept that night. Just lay there next to her, scrolling through the photos on my phone, trying to process what I'd discovered. By morning, I'd pieced together a timeline. The documents included bank statements going back 3 months. There were highlighted withdrawals I'd never noticed before. Small amounts, 150 here, 200 there, always in cash. They added up to over $2,800. Thursday morning, Claudia left early for what she called a breakfast meeting with a client. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Then I spent the morning really studying those photographs, going through every page methodically, taking notes, trying to understand the full scope of what she'd planned. I thought about confronting her immediately, demanding explanations. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the care she'd put into those documents. The months of planning they represented. The deliberate deception in every number and claim. If she'd spent that long preparing her attack, maybe I needed to prepare my defense. Around noon, while still alone in the house, I went into our home office. We had a shared desktop computer we both used for personal stuff. Bills, emails, online shopping. I'd never had reason to check her history before. Now I had every reason. The browser history was extensive and revealing. Searches for protecting assets during divorce California and California community property exceptions and separate property claims during marriage. Multiple visits to attorney rating websites, reviews of family law practices across San Diego. A forum I'd never heard of called Divorcing Without His Knowledge. I clicked through to it. Women sharing advice on how to prepare for divorce without alerting their husbands. How to gather financial information quietly. How to find attorneys who understood discretion. How to time the revelation for maximum advantage. One bookmark led to a specific post titled, Maximizing Your Settlement When Your Spouse Earns More. The advice was detailed and practical. Open separate accounts before filing. Document any behavior that could be used to demonstrate fault or neglect. Get property valuations from sources you trust to give you favorable numbers. Time your disclosure strategically, perhaps during holidays or family stress when emotional leverage is highest. It was basically a complete playbook for everything Claudia had been doing. Every strategy I discovered in those documents was right there, outlined by strangers on the internet who she'd apparently been studying like course material. But the email folder labeled Personal Private was what really got to me. I almost didn't open it. Some part of me still wanted to believe this was all a misunderstanding, that there was some explanation that would make it all make sense. That part died when I started reading. Email thread with Patricia Vance going back to March. 7 months of planning. Early emails were exploratory, Claudia asking about the process, the timeline, what documentation would be needed. By April, they were discussing strategy. By May, they were preparing specific documents. The most recent emails from October were about timing. Vance had suggested waiting until the holiday season for what she called emotional leverage. The theory being that people are more vulnerable, more willing to compromise when they're dealing with family pressures and year-end stress. Claudia had agreed, but mentioned wanting to have everything prepared sooner, just in case the right moment presented itself earlier. One email from Claudia in late September made my stomach turn. She'd written about my parents' recent health issues. My father had been diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer over the summer. My mother was dealing with mobility problems. Claudia wrote to Vance. His parents are both struggling right now. He's very focused on them. I'm wondering if that emotional state might make him more likely to agree to terms quickly, just to avoid prolonged conflict during an already difficult time. Should we consider moving up our timeline? Reading that was like getting punched. She wasn't just planning to divorce me. She was calculating how to use my parents' illnesses as leverage, how to exploit my worry about them to manipulate me into accepting whatever terms she wanted. Vance had responded cautiously, saying they should wait but keep the option open. But the fact that Claudia had thought it, had written it down, had considered using my family's suffering as a tactical advantage, that told me everything I needed to know about how she'd been thinking about this process. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about winning a negotiation. I forwarded key emails to my personal account, took screenshots of the browser history, then cleared my tracks on the computer. That afternoon, I called Raymond, an old college friend who'd gone through his own divorce 4 years back. We met at a Starbucks on University Avenue. I showed him the photos. "Man," he said, scanning through them. "She really did her homework. Tell me about it. You need an attorney. Today if possible. Don't wait. Don't try to handle this yourself, and definitely don't tell her you know yet." He gave me his lawyer's name. Helen Ortiz. Downtown office, no-nonsense reputation. I called from the parking lot and got an emergency consultation for Friday morning. That evening, Claudia came home cheerful and affectionate. She'd picked up my favorite beer and suggested we watch a movie together. I sat next to her on the couch, watching her performance. Every gesture felt calculated now. Every casual comment seemed to carry hidden meaning. "My sister might visit this weekend," she mentioned during the movie. "Maybe we could finally clean out the garage." Planning our future while secretly ending it. The audacity was almost impressive. Friday morning, I told her I had a dentist appointment. The lie came easily, which bothered me a little. But then again, I was drowning in her lies, so one more in the pool didn't seem to matter much. I met Helen Ortiz at her office on West A Street, downtown in one of those mid-rise buildings where every floor seems to house attorneys and accountants. Ortiz was probably mid-50s, with sharp gray eyes and an efficient manner that told me she didn't waste time on pleasantries or unnecessary explanations. She offered coffee. I accepted, mainly because my hands needed something to hold. I showed her everything. The photos of the petition, the financial affidavits, the settlement proposal, the screenshots of browser history, the emails I'd forwarded to myself from the shared computer, the bank statements showing the pattern of cash withdrawals, the credit card statement from the account I'd never known existed. She spent 20 minutes reviewing it all, making notes on a legal pad in handwriting that looked like some kind of shorthand. Occasionally she'd pause on something, go back to an earlier page, compare numbers. When she finally looked up, her expression was a mix of professional assessment and something that might have been sympathy. "Your wife's attorney did professional work here," she said. "The documents are properly formatted, the language is legally sound, and the strategy is clear. But there are significant problems with these documents. Problems that work strongly in your favor." Such as, she ticked them off on her fingers. First, the property valuations are deliberately conservative. "I pulled some quick comps on your building this morning. Your unit is worth somewhere between $545,000 and $555,000, maybe more, depending on condition and upgrades. Her number of 485 is laughably low. She got an appraisal from someone. I'm sure she did. From someone who understood what number she wanted. That's going to look bad for her credibility." She continued. "Second, the account balances appear to be based on outdated information, always in her favor. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. Third, the proposed division has no legal basis whatsoever in California community property law. We're a 50-50 state. She can't just declare she deserves 60% of the condo proceeds because of career sacrifices she can't document." I felt something loosen in my chest. Validation, maybe. Confirmation that I wasn't crazy for being angry about this. But the most concerning thing, Ortiz went on, is the evidence of systematic cash withdrawals and undisclosed credit accounts. In California, we call that dissipation of marital assets. If one spouse is secretly moving money around or making large purchases without the other spouse's knowledge, especially while planning a divorce, courts don't look favorably on that behavior. What does that mean for me? It means we can build a very strong response. but I'm going to recommend something that might feel counterintuitive. I don't think you should confront her yet. Why not? Because right now, she thinks she's in complete control. She thinks you have no idea what's coming. People in that position tend to make mistakes. They reveal more than they intend to. They get comfortable and sloppy. The longer she operates under the assumption that you're clueless, the more evidence we can gather and the stronger our position becomes when we do reveal what we know. She laid out a strategy. Spend the next week gathering more evidence. Pull every financial record I could find. Document every interaction. Check for any other hidden accounts or unusual expenses. She'd begin preparing a comprehensive counter-response immediately, but we'd hold it until Claudia made her official move. When someone's been planning this carefully for 7 months, Ortiz explained, they usually have a very specific timeline in mind. They've thought through when and how they want to initiate the conversation. Let her stick to her plan. Let her have the conversation she's been rehearsing. Act surprised, even a little hurt, but not devastated. Tell her you need time to process. Then tell her you think you should both get attorneys to make sure everything's handled fairly. She'll probably agree, thinking she's still controlling the narrative. That's when we show our cards. How much is this going to cost me? The retainer is $5,000. That covers initial consultation, document preparation, and the first phase of proceedings. If things get contentious, if we end up in court, there will be additional fees. But based on what I'm seeing here, I don't think we'll end up in court. Once her attorney sees the evidence we have of financial misrepresentation and asset dissipation, they're going to advise her to settle quickly and quietly. I paid the retainer from a savings account Claudia rarely checked, one I'd set up years ago for emergencies. This qualified. One more thing, Ortiz said as I was leaving. I know this feels overwhelming right now. You're discovering that someone you trusted has been deceiving you for months. That's a betrayal that goes beyond the legal issues. But try to stay focused on the practical aspects. Don't let emotion drive your decisions. The best revenge, if you want to call it that, is getting a fair outcome. Not getting even. Fair. I nodded, but I wasn't sure I agreed. Fair felt like a pretty good form of revenge when the other side had been planning to take you for everything they could get. Saturday, while Claudia spent the day with her sister who had indeed come to visit, I pulled complete bank statements from our filing cabinet. The documents in her divorce folder had only shown 3 months, with specific withdrawals highlighted. I wanted the full picture. Going back 12 months, the pattern was unmistakable. Every 2 weeks, right after our paychecks deposited, she'd withdraw cash. Always from the same ATM near Vance's office in La Jolla. $2,850 over 6 months. Money she'd been using to fund divorce proceedings I wasn't supposed to know about. Sunday evening, she suggested dinner at Coastra, this upscale waterfront place we usually save for special occasions. Over appetizers, she started testing the waters. Do you ever think about whether we're both getting what we need from this marriage? I took a sip of wine. What kind of thoughts are you having? Just that sometimes I wonder if we've grown in different directions. Whether we're building something together or just existing side by side. She was laying groundwork, establishing the narrative that would justify her eventual revelation. I played along, asking gentle questions, giving her space to perform her rehearsed lines about emotional fulfillment and personal growth. Monday morning, I met with Helen Ortiz again. Her paralegal had pulled comparable sales for our building. Our condo was worth between $545,000 and $555,000. I provided the bank statements, the browser history screenshots, the emails I'd found. Ortiz showed me the counter-response she drafted. Accurate financial valuations. Equal division of all marital assets as California law required. Documentation of Claudia's cash withdrawals, secret credit card, and research into asset concealment. Evidence from her emails about manipulating the timing and using my family situation to her advantage. This is comprehensive, she said. When she serves you or initiates the conversation, act surprised but not devastated. Tell her you need time to process. Then mention you're going to consult an attorney. That's when we show our hand. The response would be ready by Wednesday. We just had to wait for Claudia to make her move. She did, on Friday evening, October 25th. I came home from work to find her dressed nicely, the good wine open, dinner already prepared. After we ate, she set down her glass. I wanted to talk to you about something important. About us, about our future, about some decisions we need to make. The moment had arrived. Okay, I said. What's on your mind? She took a breath, and I recognized it as the same kind of breath people take before delivering prepared remarks. I've been thinking a lot lately about whether this marriage is working, whether we're both happy, whether we're growing together or growing apart. Are you not happy? I think we've grown in different directions. We want different things now. What different things do we want? She stood up, walked to the window. Theatrical blocking. I want a partnership where both people are fully present, where we're building something meaningful together, not just going through motions. And you think we're just going through motions? When's the last time we had a real conversation about our dreams, our goals? We're having one now. You're telling me your dreams don't include me. That's not what I'm saying. What are you saying? She turned to face me. I'm saying maybe we should consider whether staying together is the right choice for both of us. You're talking about divorce. I'm talking about being honest, about not settling for less than we both deserve. I leaned back in my chair. And what do you deserve? I deserve someone who's excited about building a future with me, who doesn't see our marriage as just an obligation. Have I said our marriage is an obligation? You don't have to say it. It's obvious in how we live. When did you start feeling this way? It's been building for months, maybe longer. I've tried to ignore it, but I can't keep pretending. Months? How many months? She seemed frustrated by the question. Does it matter? The point is we've lost what we had. It matters to me. Help me understand the timeline. I don't know exactly. 6 months? 8. The point isn't when I started feeling this way. The point is we need to face reality. Which is that this marriage isn't meeting either of our needs. I watched her carefully. Both of our needs, or just yours? I'm trying to be fair to both of us. Fair how? By acknowledging the truth instead of wasting more years being unhappy. Are you unhappy, or are you just done? What's the difference? Unhappy people work on their marriages. Done people plan exits. She sat back down, switching to a more conciliatory tone. I don't want this to be adversarial. I want us to handle this maturely. We both get attorneys, figure out how to divide things fairly, move forward with dignity. You've thought about the practical aspects. I think we both should. It's the responsible thing to do. Have you talked to an attorney? There was a pause, just half a second too long. I've looked into what the process involves, just to understand our options. Just looked into it. I wanted to be informed before we had this conversation. Informed about what specifically? Her voice tightened. About how divorce works in California. About what's fair. About how to protect both of us. Protect us from what? She stood again, agitated now. Why are you interrogating me? I'm trying to have an honest conversation. I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking questions. You said you wanted honesty. I'm being honest. I'm telling you how I feel. Are you? Because it feels like you're telling me what you've decided. There's a difference. I've decided we need to face facts. Facts like what? Property values? Asset divisions? Settlement terms? Her face went very still. I don't know what you mean. I mean, you seem to have specific ideas about how this divorce should work. Almost like you've had time to plan the details. I told you, I researched the process. Just research? Or did you go further than that? What are you suggesting? I'm just curious about your timeline. 6 to 8 months of unhappiness. That's a long time to sit with difficult feelings without mentioning them. I tried to talk to you about our problems. Did you? When? Multiple times. You just didn't hear me. Give me an example. I don't have to provide you with a list of every conversation. Just one example would help. She couldn't. She sat down heavily. This is exactly the problem. You're not listening now. You never listen. I'm listening very carefully. You want a divorce. You've thought about it for months. You've researched the process. You have ideas about what's fair. Am I missing anything? I want us both to be happy. That's considerate. Tell me, when you were researching how divorce works, did you research property valuations? What? I'm wondering what kind of research you did. Whether you looked into what our condo is worth, for example. She answered carefully. I may have looked at some comparable sales. And what did you find? I don't remember exact numbers. Roughly, maybe 480, 500,000. Interesting number. Specific, but not too specific. Why does this matter? It matters because property values affect how assets get divided. You know that, since you researched the process. She stood abruptly. I think you should get an attorney if you want to discuss specific numbers. Good advice. Actually, I took your advice already. She stopped moving. What? You said we should both get attorneys to protect our interests. So I did. Last week, actually. Last week? But I just told you tonight. You told me tonight that you want a divorce. But I already knew you were planning one. The color drained from her face. How could you possibly? Wednesday, October 16th. Around 7:45 in the evening. I was looking for my car key fob in your bag. Found something else instead. She sat back down slowly. You went through my things. I was looking for my keys. Found a manila folder. Had my name on 23 pages of legal documents. Her breathing went shallow. Those were preliminary. Just options. Options dated October 10th. Divorce petition. Financial affidavits with very interesting valuations. Property settlement proposal with a 60-40 split in your favor. You had no right. No right to read documents about my own divorce. Documents prepared without my knowledge over 7 months? I was trying to understand what was fair. By undervaluing our condo by $60,000? By undervaluing our accounts? By listing my 401k at $67,000 when it's actually $89,000? She looked up, fear in her eyes. Those were estimates. Estimates? Or strategy? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about the credit card you opened in May without telling me. The one with charges at legal offices and expensive restaurants. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. You've been spying on me. I've been documenting. There's a difference. Documenting what? The cash withdrawals. $2,850 from the ATM near your attorney's office. The browser history showing searches for asset protection during divorce. The emails with Patricia Vance discussing strategic timing and using my parents' health issues to make me more compliant. She backed toward the door. This is insane. You're twisting everything. I'm describing what exists. Documents you prepared. Accounts you opened. Money you withdrew. Research you conducted. All while sitting across from me at dinner talking about our future together. Tears started forming in her eyes. I was trying to protect myself. From what? From your own marriage? Or from having to be honest about wanting to end it? You don't understand. Help me understand. Explain how spending 7 months secretly planning to divorce me demonstrates good faith. I needed to know my options. I needed to feel secure. So secure you had to lie about property values and account balances? Those numbers weren't final. Just a first offer you expected me to accept without questioning. She put her head in her hands. What do you want me to say? I want you to admit what you did. I made mistakes. You made choices. Deliberate, calculated choices over 7 months. I was scared. Of what? Of not having enough. Of ending up with nothing. So you decided to take more than your share by lying about what our assets are worth. She couldn't answer that. My attorney was very interested in your approach, particularly the asset concealment research. Her voice cracked. What did your attorney say? She said your petition contains multiple misrepresentations, that the property valuations are deliberately misleading, that the proposed division has no legal basis, and that your financial activity suggests intentional dissipation of marital assets. That's not. I didn't. You withdrew $2,800. You opened a secret credit card. You had our condo undervalued. You listed retirement accounts with old balances. You claimed career sacrifices that never happened. What are you going to do? I'm going to file an accurate response. With correct valuations, proper documentation, evidence of your financial behavior, and a request for 50-50 division of all marital assets as California law requires. You're going to make this ugly. I'm going to make this honest. You had 7 months to be honest. You chose deception instead. Can we talk about this? Work something out. Talk about what? You already made your decision. You prepared the paperwork. You calculated the numbers, all without including me. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you sorry you got caught? Long silence. Then, very quietly, both. At least that's honest. The next morning, she emerged from the guest bedroom where she'd spent the night. I was making coffee in the kitchen. We should talk about next steps, she said. My attorney is filing a response Monday. You'll receive it by Tuesday. Just like that? No discussion? You had 7 months of discussion with your attorney. Now I'm having mine with mine. What's in your response? Truth. Accurate numbers. Fair division. My attorney is going to fight this. Based on what? The inaccurate valuations you gave her? She sat at the counter. What if I withdraw my petition? Maybe we could try counseling. Why would you do that? Maybe we could work on our problems. We don't have problems. We have a problem. You spent 7 months planning to end our marriage while pretending you wanted to save it. People make mistakes. People can change. This wasn't a mistake. This was a comprehensive strategy. Mistakes are accidental. What you did was intentional. So that's it. 13 years, and you won't even consider trying? You didn't consider trying. You considered how to maximize your financial outcome. She started crying. I still love you. No, you don't. You love security. You love the life we built. But you don't love me. That's not true. If it's not true, then why did you do what you did? She had no answer for that. I think you should stay somewhere else for a while. Monday, Helen Ortiz filed the response. Tuesday, Patricia Vance called requesting an emergency meeting. Apparently, the evidence of financial misrepresentation was problematic for their case. By Wednesday, Claudia was asking to settle. Equal split of everything. No fighting. Generous of you to agree to what's legally required anyway. I told her when we met at Balboa Park. Don't be cruel. I'm not being cruel. I'm being accurate. She looked at me for a long moment. I really did mess this up, didn't I? Yes, you did. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not just sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. I appreciate that. Does it change anything? No, but it's still worth saying. By early November, we had a settlement agreement. Everything split 50-50. Condo valued at $548,000. All accounts divided equally. She agreed to reimburse half of what she'd withdrawn. No spousal support. Each of us paid our own legal fees. She moved to an apartment in North Park. I stayed in the condo temporarily. We agreed to sell in the spring market. The waiting period would end in May. Now it's late November. I'm sitting alone in what used to be our living room. The space looks the same, but feels completely different. I think about that Wednesday evening when I found the folder. How everything shifted in minutes. How someone you've known for 13 years can become a stranger when you discover what they're capable of hiding. I don't feel victorious. I feel relieved. Relieved that the truth came out. Relieved that I don't have to pretend anymore. Relieved that I protected myself instead of just accepting whatever she'd planned. Some people might say I should have confronted her immediately. But I learned something in those 10 days between discovery and confrontation. Patience is power. Knowledge is power. Preparation is power. She spent 7 months preparing to control our ending. I spent 10 days ensuring I'd have a voice in it. My phone buzzes. Text from Raymond asking if I want to grab a drink. I think about it, then text back yes. Life continues. The world didn't end when my marriage did. The sun still rises. Work still happens. Friends still call. I stand, grab my jacket. Before leaving, I pause at the kitchen counter where her bag had been that night. Where everything changed. I think about control and truth and dignity. About protecting yourself even when it feels wrong to be suspicious. About how the person who seems most in control is often the one whose plans are most vulnerable to truth. She wanted to end our marriage on her terms. With her timeline. Her numbers. Her narrative. In the end, she got her divorce. But on terms that were honest. Fair. Legal. Not victory. Not revenge. Just truth. And somehow that's enough. I lock the door and head out into the November evening. Forward, not back. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.
이거 있었는데 제육볶음 세트. 국밥에 제육볶음 이거 시키자. 그래, 제육볶음에 국밥 시킬게. 좀 가격이 비싸긴 한데, 돼지국밥에 제육볶음 시키겠습니다. 네. 야무지게 먹어야죠. 그래도 야무지게 먹어야 또 방송하는 거니까. 항상 말하죠. 야무지게 먹어야 돼. 야무지게.
얘들은 뭐냐?